But in the words of, I think, Carl Jung, that which we most need to find is often where we're least willing to look. And so the answers that we most need to hear are on the other side of questions that we're the most hesitant to ask.
Welcome to Start With a Win, where we give you the tools and lessons you need to create business and personal success. Are you ready? Let's do this.
Coming to you from Brand Viva Media headquarters, studios, whatever it is, here in Denver, Colorado. Adam Contos, Start With a Win, with my buddy producer Mark.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
So good.
That's awesome. Hey, we're going to dig into some leadership and management today. What do you say?
I'm super excited. Today we have Hamza Khan on the podcast, and he is a best-selling author and global keynote speaker whose TED Talk, Stop Managing, Start Leading, I like that title, has been viewed nearly 2 million times. As the co-founder of Skills Camp, a leading soft skills training company, Hamza is on a mission to empower organizations to thrive in the future of work. Hamza, welcome to Start With a Win.
Welcome.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. What an honor it is to be here on this podcast with you.
Well, it's a blast to have you. First of all, you know, you're a friend from the North, Canadian. I've got a lot of Canadian friends. Spent a lot of time there, a lot of great friends in Canada, and you're a veteran as well. So thank you for your service.
Likewise, sir.
Thank you. So I love this topic, and you are killing it on TED. Everybody, if you have not watched Hamza on his TED Talk, go ahead and fire that into YouTube and check out the TED Talk on Stop Managing, Start Leading. It is really, really good. You're a great storyteller. You get a lot of great points across. And something I've noticed that I want to dig into a little bit is how pertinent this is to this day and age right now. We always say now more than ever, but I truly feel that way. So I look forward to having that conversation with you.
Yeah, same here. There's so much to unpack, and I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll do my very best, sir.
I think it's safe to say the world of leadership has changed so much as of late. What perspective do you have on that? Give us a flyover of what you're observing in your mind and your understanding of how leadership is changing.
You know, it's interesting. At the top of the pandemic, during the fear months, March, April, May, or the sourdough baking competition months, as some of the listeners might remember, strange time in human history. There's an author by the name of Arundhati Roy who helped me to conceptualize the transition that we're moving into. And she wrote something to the effect of, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. And this one, COVID-19, is no different. It's a portal. It's a gateway between one world and the next. And that was the impetus for me to look at leadership very differently during the early months of the pandemic. And it has served as the lens through which I now research, write about, speak about, and consult with regards to leadership. And it certainly it served as the impetus for also writing Leadership Reinvented. Well, all of this is to say, I think the pandemic served as a bit of a short circuit for the world of work and for leadership specifically. It caused everybody to take a step back and critically assess the systems that they were putting up with, that they found themselves in, that were producing all sorts of imbalances at a macroeconomic level, but also in terms of employee well-being and engagement. How leadership has changed, I think we are gradually, and then I feel like we're now in the sudden phase of that curve, where it's now suddenly we're having conversations about things like quiet quitting, occupational burnout, the Great Resignation, labor shortages. Leaders are starting to look inward and are recognizing that maybe the way that they've been managing employees, they're now starting to see the adverse effects from the perspective of the employees as a result of greater empathy and vulnerability. What do I mean? I think it was rooted in a fear-based context. I mean, when you trace it all the way back, it began with military. It began with the Industrial Revolution. It's the theory X style of management was the strategy du jour, if you will, for a very long time. It assumed the worst in people. It assumed that they were lazy, unmotivated, they disliked work, they needed to be micromanaged. But as I said, the pandemic was a short circuit that caused everyone to step back and consider that there might be a better way, because if we continue doing what we've always done, we'll get what we've always gotten. And all of these things, burnout, the great resignation, et cetera, they're all symptoms of the exact same problem, which is disengaged employees. That is at the heart of most of the things that are ailing modern organizations.
Interesting. And I do a lot of work on the Q12, the Gallup Q12 survey, and how employee engagement is affected by emotional distress, and how it lines up against Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things of that nature. And it's fascinating when you look at what are we looking for as leaders, and that is higher levels of engagement. And that really hasn't changed over the years.
No.
So you've got, and I know a lot of people will be wondering about this that listen to the podcast. You have a lot of reflection going on at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, where people are going through their employee reviews. They're having discussions with their leaders saying, how can I build my leadership in the organization? How can I improve my engagement? And you threw out that word, engagement. So what should people be looking for in themselves in order to maximize their potential in these areas?
Ooh, Adam, are you referring specifically to leaders or just employees in general?
I'm going to say, you're a leader, an employee comes to you and they say, how can I maximize myself? What do you think the leader should be telling them? Because traditionally, we've got the leader falling into the management mindset then, and they're saying, hit your numbers.
Right.
But truly, is that how you inspire somebody?
No, not at all. And you just look at one of my favorite case studies of all time is the lost decade at Microsoft. Microsoft under Steve Ballmer for 14 years.
Right.
Here's a leader that puts everything before employee engagement and well-being, namely profits, and it produced counterproductive results. Failed to capitalize on the 5 biggest tech trends to date. There's a reason, Adam, why you and I don't own a Microsoft phone. And if we do, it'd be pretty weird. It makes a great brick to throw at people.
Right.
or a Zune device. And then you look at organizations that put people first. It's fascinating to see companies like Zoom, Airbnb, Clorox, Remax, your alma mater, amazing organization that puts people first. So what could leaders tell their employees? There's a couple of things, but I think first and foremost, it's about prioritizing their wellness and their engagement and asking them the difficult questions about their levels of wellness and engagement, asking them how are they doing, not settling for the easy answer. I think the term is cognitive miser, and we do this all the time during one-on-ones. How are you doing? I'm good. And we just brush past anything that might be really bogging us down. But as a leader, having those structured and frequent opportunities to connect at a human level with their employees and asking them how are they really doing, what's getting in the way of them doing their best work, what kind of resources do they need, and really trying to address some of the upstream factors that produce disengagement and worse, burnout at the employee level. So asking them questions about their community, asking them if the work environment that they're in feels positive, or if not, what about it is either toxic or why is it poor? Asking them if they feel sufficiently compensated, if they feel like they're receiving enough rewards, tangible and intangible. Asking them if they have a balanced workload, and also creating the psychological safety necessary for them to give you honest responses, because that's ultimately what we need as a leader. As leaders, we're managing multiple priorities and workflows, and our level of resolution when it comes to information that is essential to the rate of change on the inside of the organization is directly tied to how honest our employees can be with us. And sometimes you might have leaders that are asking all the right questions, but they haven't necessarily created the culture in which their employees are giving them the feedback that's necessary. So what would I say? In sum, rather than saying things to your employees, ask them questions, and ask them tough questions that you're possibly afraid to receive answers to. I know this from firsthand experience. The times when I have been, when I've maintained radio silence with my teams is when I've been afraid to receive answers from them. But in the words of, I think, Carl Jung, that which we most need to find is often where we're least willing to look. And so the answers that we most need to hear are on the other side of questions that we're the most hesitant to ask.
Awesome. What little bits of advice would you give to leaders to recognize this chaos and allow people to step into it? And it's there. It's not going to change.
Right.
But we need to live with it. What should we tell them?
Chaos. We have to accept that chaos is present. And I would take it a step further. I mean, we're really dealing with entropy, scientific concept that explains how if left unchecked, disorder and randomness tends to increase over time. And I think parents of toddlers, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And so if we're not careful and if left unchecked, leaders who give in to this chaos, who are unwavering in the face of chaos, who try to insist that it's not there perhaps, they can be assured that their circumstances aren't going to get any better. It's essentially a law of the universe that they'll only get worse. Chaos is hungry for failing organizations, and it thrives when leaders are unprepared. But to wrap our heads around a concept as large as chaos, entropy, with regards to how that affects organizations, there's a couple of acronyms that I think are really helpful over here. So PwC, they use ADAPT. And I think it's asymmetry, disruption, aging systems, polarization, and trust diminishment as characteristics of our ever-changing world. And then one, Adam, that I know you're familiar with as a veteran, specifically with the Navy SEALs, VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity with origins. That term has origins in the U.S. Military college establishment or system, if you will. I love these acronyms because whenever I need to communicate what it is that we're dealing with, rather than speaking about it in terms of chaos and entropy, you can just sort of like hone in on attributes of the economy, of organizational behavior, of leadership behavior that we can deal with at a granular level. So that's what we're dealing with right now, Adam. We're dealing with a world in which the only constant is constant change. And rather than resist it, parry it, and fight it, I think that leaders should learn how to become comfortable with it, frankly, how to mimic it, how to emulate it, and you know what? How to anticipate and dance with it.
Party with the beast.
Party with the beast. Wow, that is beautiful. I've never heard about it in those terms. I'm writing that down. Party with the beast.
It's the beast is fear. It lives inside of all of us, and we can either choose to fight the beast or we can choose to party with the beast. I want to go to the opposite side of chaos here briefly, which is calm. I mean, we have this calm, and I guess that's the best word that I can use for that: calm or organized or clarity or what have you. Because chaos is just a defining factor of us assigning fear to change, I suppose you could say. So, and that's just my perspective on that, not having done the academic study that you have on the topic. But, maintaining calm in your business is a huge challenge for leaders. And a big part of that is, and I know we always talk about managing your time. You can't manage your time. You have to manage your choices within your schedule. So yes and no on things and where I put them and who I allow in and things like that. But why is it important for team leaders to learn to deal with this calm? And how, what do you have any tips for implementing the time, energy, effort, things like that into this?
I've been taking so many notes over here, and you just reminded me of something that you said in the episode a couple of episodes ago, the episode that you did with your wife, where you said something to the effect of expectations are avoiding surprises. I think that was what you said verbatim.
Yep. And
if we're not managing our time, energy, and attention, if we're not creating a sort of predictable way, a baseline, then our day-to-day work is going to be full of surprises and emergencies. What's that adage? A lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And we might as well be talking about our future selves in that respect. So it's important to manage our time, energy, and attention because those are the fundamental components of productivity. And when they're optimized, then we can be intentionally productive. And that's essentially aligning our attention with intention. And when you think about what productivity is fundamentally, it's about resilience. It's about sustaining productivity over time. And that's where I focus a lot of my efforts on right now. It's why are organizations tumbling into the chasm of time? Why are leaders losing their fire? Why are employees losing their fire? And it's because we're behaving intensely, we're behaving chaotically versus, just prioritizing high achievement over overachievement and sustainable productivity. So there's so many reasons why calm is better than chaos, but ultimately calm employees get more done. If you just take a wider time scale, calm employees get more done.
Brilliant statement. Everybody, I hope you're listening to that. Rewind it a little bit. In fact, go listen to this entire podcast again because this is full of gold. I mean, it's incredible. Hamza, thank you so much for being on Start With a Win. I do have a final question for you that I ask all of our amazing guests. Hamza Khan, how do you start your day with a win?
I could give you the whole breakdown. I could give you a rundown of my entire morning routine, but I'll give you how it begins. Just the tip of the spear, if you will. I start with an immediate task. As soon as I get up out of bed, I make my bed. And I think that's something, Adam, you and I both picked up from our time in the forces. Getting that bed made first thing in the morning initiates the productive flow that I carry with me throughout the day.
Awesome. Hamza Khan, thank you so much for being on Start With a Win. We appreciate all that you do. It's great to see you, my friend. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, and thank you for listening to Start With a Win. We'd love if you'd subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you want to connect online, head over to adamcontos.com. Until next time, remember, start with a win.
Are we on YouTube?
We are on YouTube now.
We're on YouTube.
Now we've crossed over. We've crossed over to YouTube. You know, if anyone, one of the great things about YouTube is that the episodes get condensed just a little bit, so you can watch them a little bit quicker. You can see us on camera, you know, and our guests, and that's always good. And sometimes it just gets a little, you know, different. I don't know. So I have a question. You know, what was it? When was the trigger or the moment where you're like, man, I need to like start talking about leadership? You know, what was that just gave you that push to say, all right, there's a problem here where there's a vacuum that needs to be filled and I need to, you know, fill it?
Yeah, great question, man. When I look back at my career and what that moment was, it was very gradual. So you might not guess this, you know, based on how you've introduced me and how you're familiar with me online, seeing the TED Talk, you know, me speaking on this podcast. But man, I'm socially awkward. I'm shy. I'm like ridiculously introverted. I've spent most of my life behind the screen, writing, building, creating. And what happened is that when I developed expertise, subject matter expertise, I was asked by fellow leaders, early mentors, to share my work, to talk about my work, to basically explain to other people how to do things. And that gradually transitioned from like, here's how to build a communication strategy or here's how to run a team. I don't know at what point I went from doing, you know, small road shows within organizations to panel discussions to workshops to classrooms, and one day I did a keynote and it's just been nonstop since then. After the first keynote, I've just been riding the wave. And to be honest, I'm now at a place where I just feel grateful to share these ideas, to have the opportunity to do that. But I can't think of a specific point where that happened. This is like the result of a gradient, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I can relate to that as well because, you know, I think about, you know, and probably you as well. It was like, you know, you're a SWAT commander and then you're the CEO of Remax. It's like, how did that happen? You know,
what has been helpful, Mark, though, is that like being a writer and then just also like you guys, just being very thoughtful, introspective, and just reflecting on my experiences. I think I've had the privilege of making meaning of the things that I've gone through. I don't think that what I've done in my career necessarily is exceptional. I think I've done good work. Sometimes I've done great work, but I don't have the storied career, for example, that Adam does. But what I do have, like Adam and yourself, is the ability to sort of tap into what it is that I've done, why it's meaningful, what that triumph looked like, and to make that accessible to other people, to turn my experiences into blueprints. So that would be my recommendation for anybody listening to this who's thinking about like getting into speaking or thought leadership. Make meaning of your experiences, write as much as you can, because I find that the best speakers are also really effective writers.
Yeah,
Yep. Totally.
Yeah, I think that's so true because we all have experiences in life that grow us and develop us and change us. And doesn't matter what kind of experience it is, it can all speak to leadership or, you know, inspiring others or whatever that might look like. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, I guess that's it.